Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next artist is a 23-year-old singer-songwriter with roots in the Windy City. Now a Nashville indie rocker, her journey is starting to pick up speed. Welcome, Grace.
Hi.
I always like to start with where your journey with music all began.
Well, it started, I remember just when I was really little, I would just always be singing. I would sing like The Little Mermaid in the bathtub. My mom's like, "Oh, okay, you're like into this." But I didn't start actually like performing until I'd say like first grade. My mom put me in musical theater, and I was like, okay, like this is something that I really love and just resonated with me, especially because I got to sing. I liked the acting part as well, but that's kind of where I got my start with music in general and performing on stage. And I kind of learned, I was like, I tried the sports and everything, but I'm like, okay, wait, like I'm not good at that. Like, what I'm better at like the more creative stuff. So I was doing musical theater all through high school. And then in high school, honestly, my senior year of high school, I I obviously always loved like music, just all types in general, but I was like, wow, it'd be really cool. I would write poetry and I'd write a lot and I enjoyed writing, but I was like, it would be so cool if I could just write songs. But I'm like, I could never do that. I was like, what the heck? Like, that seems like really hard and like I'm not musically talented with like instruments, but I was always interested in it. So then my senior year of high school, I picked up a guitar and I just like kind of taught myself. And one day it kind of clicked and I was able to like move chords. And then I wrote my first song and I was like, oh, wait, like I can do this. And I loved it. And I was like, this is such a cool outlet. So yeah, my senior year of high school, I started writing songs. And that's when that journey sort of started and playing guitar. And yeah, that's kind of how it started.
So it's always interesting to me how many people I've had come on here and say that it always starts with musical theater, because that just to me did not even like be a thought of like that's where like people would have found it, like wanting to be an artist and writing music and stuff like that. It just, to me, those are like apples and oranges, but the connection there is, it's interesting how it's sort of manifested in a lot of people that I've spoken with. But um with it starting at such a, I mean, senior year of high school is like, okay, life, what is next? Like, having that start at that moment, how did that impact the journey that you took after that? Like, what sort of things did that change? What sort of impact did that have?
Yes, so I always thought like the majority of my life I wanted to go into like the theater realm. And when I was in high school, I either wanted to be a director for theater or like start my own like children's theater company. I was always kind of like where I wanted to go. But I feel like, well, my parents wanted me to go to college and it was like the opportunity to move away and kind of do whatever I wanted. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. But originally, was going to go into I did go into theater directing. So I chose Belmont, which I feel like in the back of my mind, I was always like, I want to be a songwriter, artist. And even though I was going for theater, I never thought I could do that. And I was very new to it. But I chose Nashville as a city in Belmont because I was like, that's the hub of music that my parents were like, LA's too far. So like I was like, that's kind of where I wanted to be. But I was going to college for theater until I got surrounded by everybody doing music and the culture here. And I was like, I'm kind of in the best spot to like start this journey. So why am I not going to start it? I feel like I would have regretted not pursuing songwriting and being an artist to like a higher degree. Um, if I didn't do it. So I think I was in one semester of theater, and then I was like, they have this songwriting program, they have a music business program, started meeting more people that were doing the artist thing. And that's where I kind of was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to make this jump. We had to like audition for the songwriting program. And I was like, oh gosh, like, I don't think I'll make it. I didn't have that confidence of like, I could really do this. Um, but I auditioned my sophomore year and I got in and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this songwriting thing. And, I don't think you need to go to school for it, but I do think the people I met along the way and the people I was surrounded with did help me get better as an artist, as a songwriter, and like fully be around everyone else doing it. So, yeah, that's when I kind of like took the leap. And I think it's something I still struggle with today is like, can I actually do this? I feel like every artist goes through that. But also, I have to keep in mind, like, I am in like such a centralized location where everyone's trying to do it, but it's also the best place to meet people and start that journey.
Yeah, that is the blessing and the curse of the music hubs of America, because it's like everybody and their brother is doing it, and so you're looking at it and you're like, okay, so like all of these people are so much further along than me, they're so much more talented than me, like all these different sorts of comparison detriments that you can get yourself into, and just sort of like be like especially if you're starting out and you're early and you're still sort of exploring specifically what you want to be doing within it. It's like, okay, maybe it looks like I should be having it all figured out by now, but we always have to remind ourselves that we're on different timelines and that's just life. But at the same time, it's like, look at all the opportunity that you get from being in a place like that, where those people are. There's going to be more opportunity. There's going to be more community. There's going to be more, collaboration opportunity and whatnot. So as much as it is this like detriment of, okay, all of these people are like really good. It's also like, okay, how do I get in the same room with all of these people and like have that build up what I'm ultimately trying to build? So it definitely has its both sides for sure, which I'm sure you've lived firsthand. Do you think that these sorts of people that you found yourself around, or the communities that you've sort of found yourself a part of, do you think that that's influenced how you've developed your own artistry?
Yeah. And I think at first, when I started um, writing and like releasing music seriously, I was like trying to find my sound and like the people that I wanted to write with and kind of just like who I wanted to be. And I think at first, the people I was surrounding myself with were not exactly who I actually was. And I feel like I was surrounded by these people that were country and pop, and like that was what is popular. And I kind of had this idea in my mind, like, I need to be this pop artist if I want to be successful. And I feel like I almost started to like try to make myself into that, like produce my music like that, but like truly that wasn't me. So like now, a couple years later, I feel like I have found the people that I surround myself with to they're very much aligned with what I want to do, what I love, where I want to take myself. And I think that makes like all the difference. Like it wasn't until I truly found the people that like have the same vision and like passions as me to like where I can excel what I want to do. And I think that truly comes with like finding good, genuine friends as well. Because earlier when I was here, I didn't really have that. But now that I have that and we're all able to like share our mutual love of the same type of music and, interests with that, I feel like that has really excelled, what I'm trying to make in my music.
Yeah. I mean, it is typically said in terms of like purely in a friend sense, but I think it applies to music as well, is it's like you are the combination of the like five people you are closest with. And so if you're surrounding yourself with a different type of music person, if you will, those that's going to lead you astray from the root of it all, essentially. And it could be in a good way. Like it could be like, oh, this is what I thought I was meant to be doing, but it's actually like this is a good direction for me. But it also can be in the sense of that's not what I want, but I need to find something that's more in the realm of what I'm going for and what I'm trying to do. And so it's definitely something to wrestle with, especially with pop being the marketable thing, you know. And then country, of course, because it's Nashville. But yeah, sticking true to what you know to be your own vibe and all that is not always the easiest thing. But I'm under the belief that if it's good, there will be an audience for it. So, what do you find most often inspires your writing?
So many things. And I think it's different every time, but lately, this like next project I'm working on, a lot of it has been inspired by like my dreams. I have like really just crazy like nightmares, dreams, and yeah, they're pretty crazy, but I do find like I get a lot of like inspiration or ideas like artistically from them, even if they are like nightmares. I can see some sort of message coming through, or like, oh, this is a cool like visual, and I'll get an idea from that. So I think, especially for this next project, that's where that's been coming from, and that's kind of like my theme for it. But I get ideas anywhere, and I think most songwriters do this, but like sometimes an idea will literally just come from a word, a phrase, and I'll write it down and then I start expanding on it. But yeah, I'm like constantly, it's you're just observing all the time, looking at the world around you, trying to find ideas, and it comes in many forms. Sometimes I'll watch a movie and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like I could write a song about this. You look at art, certain piece of art, you get an idea. But a lot of mine, I start with like lyrics a lot of the time because that's kind of how I started. But a lot of it will come from like a phrase or just like a word that I think could be a song title. And then I start writing more things around it, and then ideas will like come together through there. But yeah, it's just different every time, but
Yeah, it's the age old question of what's your like songwriting process, and the answer is there isn't one because it's hard to really nail one down. But in terms of writing about like dreams and nightmares, like you said, how do you remember enough to write about it? Because I always find myself like, unless I'm like thinking about it first thing in the morning, I can barely get even like 10% of it from what
yeah.
happened into my head.
Oh, okay. I'll show you this. This is I write all my dreams down. I've kind of
Okay.
gotten late. Well, first of all, they're very vivid. Like some nights they aren't as vivid as other ones, but like I usually like keep this in my and I've been writing my dreams down like when I wake up, like since this is from like the beginning of 2022, but I just write them down right away, as much details as I can. But some of them are so vivid that like I can remember a certain dream from like a year ago and I can just see it in my head. But I've also had like recurring ones that are like super intense, but I do write them down. So,
Okay.
but it's kind of crazy. Like I go through periods where I like for a couple years I didn't have any dreams, but now I have a dream every single night. And some are more vivid than others, some are scary, some are not. But I'm like, there's a lot going on here. I'm just gonna write it down. Like
And you can usually get enough down that it's something that you can work with.
Yeah, or if it's just like I just feel like some of them are symbolic, or like I'll see like some type of like animal or some type of situation or some theme coming through. But specifically one that I remember is kind of what I saw in the dream. um I'm gonna use for like a music video for one of my songs coming up, because that's like one that stands out as like one of the scariest ones I had. um but I can see it in my head still, and I'm like, this is such a cool like visual for um a video. But it's also crazy because I remember that dream specifically, it was so hard. I thought I woke up in real life, but it was the dream. And like I remember looking at my phone because like I wasn't feeling well, but I finally fell asleep for like an hour or two. I had to like go to class. So I remember in the dream waking up in my apartment looking like normal. I look at my phone and it's 3 days later and I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed class. I missed this. And then it like was this whole scary, like, honestly, like sort of demonic things going on. And then like I fell like into my bathtub like a black hole. And then I woke up and I was like, I thought that was real life. It was the scariest thing. But I can see the visuals from it still. And I'm like, some of the things like I saw, I was like, that would be cool in like a video. So I'm like, you know what? If I'm having all these scary things happen in my head, I might as well use them and make art, I guess. Like, I don't know.
If
Yeah,
I have to
that's
live
crazy.
it, you have to live it too. Yeah, the ones where you feel like you're like it's like real enough to be real. Those are the and waking up in your that's just that's another level. That's crazy.
Yeah,
But
like sometimes happen, and then I'm like, wait, did that happen in a dream or real life? Like, it's so confusing.
yeah, that a lot of questions to be asked for sure. Um if you had to create a new genre around your style of music, what would you call it?
Oh, I'm trying to think of something that doesn't exist. I was gonna say like, honestly, maybe like dreamy rock something, but I feel like that's already like a thing, like dream pop or like um yeah, I don't know specifically. That's a hard question.
Takes everybody a minute to really kind of try and put
Yeah.
words together that aren't already put together.
Yeah, I don't know. The best I could say is like sad girl dream rock.
I'll take it. I think the dream part definitely has to be in there at this point.
Yeah, at this stage in my life, yeah.
Where things currently stand, the dream is definitely there. Um, is there a release that you think best embodies who you are as an artist in terms of your like one song sampling platter?
Are you saying one that's currently released?
That would be the key.
Okay. Um, right now as an artist, I think honestly, even though it's kind of older, I think the song Not Okay, I think I released it like a couple years ago, but it kind of has like a 2000s rock sound, but I think the lyrics are just like super me, and they're like a little sassy and a little like smart, but also kind of sad and like introspective.
Over dramatic, sitting in sadness, I hold hands with my loneliness. Had a conversation with my anxiety, 'cause I'm really good at being alone. I write this autobiography, I killed the main character. Oh shit, that's me. I spend my money. It feels so funny every time I lie and say I'm okay, but I'm not okay right now. I can't say what I want to say right now. Vulnerability is so damn hard to stop. Won't lie like the rest and fake a smile.
I think right now that's like kind of how I feel, but also it changes. Like there's so many different, even what I have released now, I feel like they're all so different. I'm kind of honing in on like future what I want to do, but I still really resonate with that one.
If we're including future ones, do you have one that's like an up and coming one that is what your answer would be if we negated the fact that it has to be released?
Yeah, I think the whole project that I'm working on as a whole is just very me and very much what I want to sound like. And it's taken me a while to like figure that out, but I'm working with people now that like I feel like do truly understand what I like and what I want to be. So I think the whole project coming as a whole is like, yeah, me completely.
So not only did you break the rules of it being a currently released song, but you're breaking the rules on it being just one song.
No, it can't be.
I know that's the hard part, but that's the point, you know. It's okay. It's not the first time I've had more than one song be an answer, and it won't be the last. If somebody's like writing off a new album, it's like the new album, and I'm like, well, is that one song? Is it? No, it's
Well,
hard.
you know,
It's hard.
done yet, but yeah, I don't know.
I won't make you pick. It's okay. I won't make you pick. No, it's hard because it's like you have to try and filter out your own perspective on the songs in terms of like, oh, I like this one the best. And not only that, but that also changes like regularly. Just like depends on the day sometimes, or whichever one is like the current vibe. You know, it's hard to pick it's hard to pick your own favorite song of your songs, let alone pick one that you think kind of best embodies it, especially in the like modern age of music when people are kind of all over the place in terms of like creating different things. Like we're not as pigeonholed as things used to be. And so with that level of flexibility, it's hard to pick one song that covers like this much space. You know, if we were in this lane, that's probably not as hard. But if you're in this lane,
Right.
there's too many factors, you know?
Yeah. That's why I'm like, today, this song. Tomorrow.
We'll circle back. Maybe in like 20 minutes, it'll be a different one. If you had to pick 2 or 3 artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who would it be?
I'll say the current stuff I'm working on, I think is like Lana Del Rey's definitely in there because I'm obsessed with her. I think another artist, I think, though this is a crazy combination, but I'm thinking of my new stuff coming out. I mean, each song's a little different, but I'd say Lana Del Rey. And another one of my songs is very heavily inspired by the Police. So that's like a crazy combination. But I do think some of like my influences from everywhere do kind of come through here and there, even though they're so different.
Yeah, those are 2 very different styles, time periods, all of the things.
Yeah. Well, it'll be like small things, like a guitar sounds like this from this Police song, or the drums, and then it'll be like my vocal and the production in another song is very Lana. Like, okay. So it's more small details. Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about this as you said that like Lana was the first one because you're like obsessed with her music. So do you have, because I feel like it's a common thing a lot where it's like the people that we listen to the most often bleed into what we write and what we create. and that it's just inevitable. Like you will create what you consume. But do you think that there's anybody that you like would consider yourself like a big fan of, like in terms of you'd put them in your top like maybe 15, that you think is completely different than the type of music that you make, like would not be able to be credited as an inspiration directly to your art? Is there anybody in that kind of way?
Well, I think my top, like my second artist, my Spotify Wrapped was
Mhm.
SZA. Yeah, I don't think I sound like her at
Mhm.
all, or make the same type of music, but I do love her music. So maybe just like different genres, that I'm like not necessarily like pop and R&B that I'm not like specifically trying to go for, I
Mhm.
guess.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, that's different than the other two for sure. Um, I was just curious because like like I started writing music based like because I was a huge fan of John Bellion at the time. Complete 180 from anything I will ever create. Like I can't do all of the things that him and like Quinn 92 have going on, and that sort of like there's like 10 different things going on at all times. And so it's interesting because it's like I feel like at least for me it's like half of what I listen to is just stuff that I enjoy. The other half is very much like, okay, that checks out, you know.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting because there's you can't completely be a combination of everything. Some stuff is just for fun.
Mhm.
What is an outside passion of yours that you feel impacts who you are as an artist?
I have a lot of passions that are artistic in a way, so I don't really want to say like I like to paint and do like different collages and like those kind of things, but I do think that's like very creative, so I wouldn't necessarily say, because like I like fashion and all that stuff too, but I think those are all like creative outlets that also can impact you as like an artist. Like you're as an artist, you're not only writing the music, but a lot of the times you're curating like your look, your album art, your visuals. So I think that kind of goes along with it. But outside of that, I'd say recently in the last 2 years, something that's kind of separate from it, I've gotten really into like meditation and spirituality, like crystals, things like that. I think, yeah, just more. I'm just trying to become a better version of myself and kind of quiet down the anxiety in the mind. So I think, yeah, that in a way impacts my artistry.
I mean, if you would have left it at the other creative things, I would have taken that as well. I think you bring up a good point that there are like it's not just music related if it impacts your artistry. Like there can be other things that will impact it in that way and still can fall under that creative umbrella. But it's also something that I feel like a lot of artists don't have necessarily as much of an interest in or like care as much about, because some people just it's music and the music only at times. And so having that as something that you also are passionate about just kind of adds to the artistry altogether, which is great. But I think with that sort of mindset around the meditation and just personal development, if you want to blanket it in that way, is a great mindset and perspective to have. Because if you're not striving for the next thing, what's going to push you to like get on the next project? What's going to make you want to take the necessary next steps to level up and get you to where you want to be? Like you can have those aspirations, but unless you're going to do XYZ to get there and like actually care about the journey to get to the destination, you're going to be left out to dry, you know? And so I think, especially in the current music landscape and where things are at right now, that's a great thing to have, and it will definitely impact you as an artist because it's what's going to get you from point A to point B. Recently I started doing this new thing where I have last week's artist ask a question for next week's artist. So last week's question is, if you could set up a music festival, who would you have on the lineup? And we kind of decided, instead of just having it be like 50 friggin' names, I'll take 3 headliners and then 3 people you would have, well, 1 per headliner, that you would have on that day's lineup.
Okay. Okay, so my 3 headliners, Lana Del Rey, for sure. And then with her, I would put Florence and the Machine. Then I would have the next stage. I'm gonna put I want to put the Smiths headlining and then the Cure with them. Then on the third stage, I'm going to have Cage the Elephant as the headliner and then the Strokes with them. That's my lineup.
That's all mostly within the same realm, I would say, with the exception of like the first day. Like the next 4 to me are kind of in that same. I don't know any of them, their catalogs very deeply to know the differences and the similarities, but they're all in that sort of indie rock landscape. Yeah, I think that all tracks. And those are
some of my
favorites. What is your question for next week? What am I asking next week?
I feel like this has already been asked, but I'll think of another one if it's already been asked, but it's kind of basic. But if you could listen to one album like on repeat for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
I'll take it. I'll take that as a question. Perfect. That's gonna be whoever's next is gonna be mad at that question because that's a hard one. But
I was you weren't gonna ask me that question. I was like,
oh, no. No, I'm not that tough. I say I only keep a couple cruel ones in here. Like I'll make you come up with the genre and whatnot. But I won't go too hard. What is it that you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
I think one thing that I already mentioned is that I'm not just passionate about the music. I think there's a lot more to me and what I do than just writing the song and singing it. I think, like I said before, I look at being an artist is, for me, specifically, is just like I want to be involved in everything and creating a vision about like my album art and how I dress on stage and the videos I make. And I think I really enjoy like all aspects of being a music artist. So I think that's one thing that makes me a little different than some other people.
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier. I'll say it again. It's not something that a lot of people care necessarily that much about. Like it is a curation process to kind of cater to whatever you feel like your artistry is, and some of this will just kind of manifest naturally, like, you know, the clothes that you would pick up to wear, that's going to kind of fit the brand, unless you're kind of sort of trying to craft something rather than just doing it as you are. And I think that's a lot of the separation between those that just write the music and those that truly embody what being an artist means and what it's all about. Because yes, the names that we all know aren't going to be doing X, Y, and Z all of themselves, but it's still built off of the foundation that they've created and the brand that they've built for themselves. Those other people are just executing it. And so I think it gets lost a lot of times that being that we have so much to do with the music alone to try and get all that done, being independent it gets lost in everything else because it's not the most important thing to cater your outfits or craft the perfect music video or anything like that. But those are the little things that will make the big thing even better. And so it definitely is something that not as many people pay attention to and put effort into or really take interest in, but really should, because the more you kind of craft a big picture, the more people want to consume it. You gotta give more than just a new song, a new album, a new whatever. Otherwise it's how you need give them a reason to remember your name. That's what the big sort of picture in painting it is, and all that stuff. And who knows, maybe you'll enjoy that part more, so good for you. Because I
Not easy. Like, it's so hard to be like putting your all, like you said, like other artists don't think about it because being independent, you are doing everything yourself. Shows, you're doing this, you're making content, and it's overwhelming. But the more that I can just find joy in the little things of what I'm creating, like that's the whole point to me. So less about stress of like, oh, how many views is this? Like, it's more just about, do I enjoy what I'm creating? Like, is this fun for me? Otherwise, you're gonna get lost in it. So I think that's what I'm trying to focus on, is just enjoying creating.
Yeah, that's the big thing, because a lot of people, like, some people adapt the mindset that if I don't want to do it, I won't. And I think that kind of comes from, we've sort of created this space with independent music that anybody and their brother can create music from their basement and put it on Spotify. And that's great. But it's also created this sort of idea that anybody can do it and you can just do it because you want to. But to do it because you want to and then actually have it pay off are two different things. To actually have it pay off, you have to be willing to do the things that you don't necessarily enjoy as much and just bite the bullet, because those little things that you don't necessarily enjoy are going to make the thing that you enjoy doing more accessible, more, impactful, and actually, maybe put something in your pocket. Because that's all anybody that's doing this really sort of wants, is to be able to support themselves doing said thing. But some people, don't want to do the TikTok thing, and then they just won't. That's not gonna, like, I mean, if you have other means, go for it. But that's a big thing even still, and it will continue to be. And so you kind of at some point have to sacrifice your own resistance to it and just be like, maybe I can find a way to enjoy it. Because that's, like, you said it better than I will, like, finding a way to enjoy just the creative process in general is the perfect move. Because if you can find a way to enjoy it, it'll make it that much easier to do and that much easier to get yourself to do. And then you'll show up for yourself in ways that you need to. What is it of that, the sort of overall creative process? What have you found yourself to be most sort of resistant to, in terms of, like, what was the hardest thing to really be like, okay, this isn't my favorite thing, but this is a necessary thing. Let's just figure out a way to do it.
Definitely social media, I think, as a whole. But like I said, I've been trying to find ways to enjoy it and not be so scared of it. I think, you know, yeah, it's obviously, yeah, I think a lot of us talk about TikTok, but recently I've just been trying to like have fun with it more than like take it so seriously. And also, I think another thing for me is just like, like I don't have that many people watching. So it's like the people that are watching, like I'm like, oh, like, is this embarrassing? Is this that? But it's like the moment I take that away, like I'm just standing in my own way at that point. Like if I'm worrying about like what my few hundred people are gonna think of me, then whatever. Like, but if I start doing it and putting my all into it and not being afraid of it, like that's when the payoff could happen. And if I don't try, nothing will happen. So I've been making like more videos and trying to stack them up, but make them fun for me and make them like something that I would want to watch. Yeah. Yeah, social media is hard.
Yeah.
Also because you also have to be consistent with it and like think ahead. Like, I have this show coming up. I need to post this many times. I need to plan like what I'm gonna post and like when. And yeah, so it takes a lot of like planning and thinking about it.
Yeah, it has, yeah, it's the algorithm has shifted this year, and I think like just the way everything's become as algorithmic as it has, it's become more and more difficult to see the payoff. And so then there's less and less people that are really like willing to deal with the fact that everything will sit at 200 and some views for however long. But at the same time, like you said, like doing it consistently, that's where things start to accumulate. But yeah, I mean, if you can find a way to enjoy it, it also just does make it easier to look at whatever sort of result you get with a grain of salt rather than being the whole picture. Because if you're just doing it to show up and do it, and then you're like worried about how it comes across or something, then you're going to be watching everything that comes in response to it. And that's not a good way to do it. That's not going to be healthy. Can't have that. So what impact do you ultimately want to have with your artistry and with your music?
This is such a basic answer that I feel like everyone's gonna say, but obviously a lot of people are gonna answer this the same way of like they just want to help people, make people feel less alone. But I think also to that, I think I also like want to inspire people to like not be afraid to like do their own thing sort of, and not worry about what other people think. But along with that, I think with the helping people, I think a big thing I am passionate about and like want to put out there is like you're not alone, and like especially specifically like mental health struggles. I think a lot of artists go through that, and people in general go through that, and people still don't talk about it enough or they're like vulnerable or real about it. It's become more of a conversation nowadays, but I still think, yeah, there's things that can be said to help people through it and like make them feel like, hey, like I'm not the only person going through it. Because obviously when you're going through it, you're like, no one else understands me or gets this. So yeah, it's something I'm passionate about, I guess.
Yeah, it's applicable to that specifically, but I think even in a bigger, broader way, I guess, is it's like the more and more you sort of experience, the more you sort of realize that like, or even there's the more conversations you have, because the more conversations you have, you learn more about other set experiences and whatnot, but nothing that you are specifically going through is just unique to you in any way, shape, or form, because we all are living the human experience. And I think something that in recent years specifically, but in general with music, we can take a lot from is it's like, look at how specific songwriters like your Lizzie McAlpines and your Noah Kahns and your Taylor Swifts get with the lyricism and the stories that they're telling. Like the whole thing, whenever I guess like Red Taylor's version came out, was the whole All Too Well and the scarf and all that thing. Is like everybody knew exactly what she was talking about, what she was experiencing, et cetera, et cetera. But did anybody live that exact same experience? No. And it's interesting to see that the more detail that we put into these different sorts of stories that we tell, the more communal the experience seems to be. But like I said, it's a perfect example of painting this sort of picture that, okay, I'm not the only one who's experienced this thing. At least the person, there's at least one other person that's the person behind this song has kind of been through the same sort of thing. And if that's there, odds are that there's hundreds, thousands, whatever people that have gone through the exact same thing. You know, it's not something that we often think about because of how isolating unfortunate experiences can be. But if you're able to sort of take that step back and look at it in a sort of way of like, okay, like this is something that like life is just sort of doing. This is something that people are living. It makes it, even if you're not directly connected to any of those other people, it makes it a little bit more grounding and I don't know what the other word is I'm looking for, but it just makes it a little bit more okay, you know? And I think there is more to be said about those different things. I think there are steps in that direction, but I think it's just conversations that will continue to be had, and for good reasons. I think that brings us to the final question, which is ultimately, why music?
Music. I think in my life, music has been just so healing in so many ways. Listening to it, making it, using it as an outlet. I think it has the ability to heal in so many ways. And I think it's done that in my life, in many others' lives. And along with that, I think, like you said, it's like it makes you feel human, almost like the experiences we go through, like the human experience, like listening to a song can just evoke an emotion, or writing a certain song can let out certain emotions. And I find that really special and beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I hate saying it because it's cliche, but I find myself saying it like every time it's music is the universal language, you know, like that's where, you know, that's just where things are understood more than anything else. And I think that's the beauty of it. That's what makes the people that create it want to create it more. It makes it so powerful to be able to create, but also for the people consuming it, it's like why everybody enjoys it. Like that's the one thing that like universally we can all benefit from and like find our own part of it, you know, like it's not like sports aren't for everyone, the theater's not for everyone, whatever else isn't for everyone, but music is, because of what, like there's nothing else like it. There's nothing you can really replace it with. It's just on another level. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. Check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.